Deep dives and blue skies. Welcome back to Talking Blue with Nick, the best Dodgers analytical podcast that you can find.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Talking Blue, the best Dodgers analytical podcast that you can find. I'm your host, Nick. Today you are listening to episode 68 of Talking Blue, where we're going to recap Game 1 of the National League Championship Series. Of course, the Dodgers won Game 1. They beat the Brewers in Game 1 by a score of 2-1. I'm here to recap everything that happened in the game. Blake Snell was incredible. Some crazy base running moments. Couple of home runs. In fact, I think it was just one home run. And then obviously the game ended in a crazy way. So I'm here to recap all of that. As always, you can get this podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on all social media at Talking Blue Pod, Instagram, X, and as well on TikTok. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Like I said, turn on the notifications so you don't miss any of the new videos dropping. And you can follow myself on X at Talking Blue Nick. I live tweet through the games, drop a lot of information, tweets, breakdowns, all that kind of stuff. And then on Reddit as well at competitive-week8715. So today, I'm obviously going to recap Game 1, go through all that stuff. I'm going to first run through the game for those of you who did not listen. I'm going to try to do that quickly because the last couple times I kind of did it. It took a little bit of too much time. Then I'm going to talk about Blake Snell's pitching performance. I'm going to talk about the crazy base running mishap that happened. I think that was in the 4th or 5th inning. Then I'm going to talk about the offense and then the ending of the game, which was the Sasaki coming in the 9th, trying in, and all that stuff. So let me run through Game 1. Before the game started, we weren't sure who was going to pitch and all that stuff. It ended up being announced. Blake Snell is the Game 1 starter, and then the Brewers are going with Aaron Ashby. Freddie Peralta, their best pitcher, will start today's game, which is Game 2. So you kind of knew it was going to be a bullpen game. Not necessarily an opener, because I didn't expect any bulk guys to come in, anyone to come in and eat a lot of innings. I thought it was going to be bullpen, pitching changes, a lot of pitching changes, pitcher to pitcher. Top of the 4th inning, this is where a lot of the action started. So Teoscar Hernandez led off the inning with a walk. After a Freddie Freeman flyout, Will Smith would single, and then Tommy Edmonds single. So the Dodgers have the bases loaded with one out, and I'm sure you have all seen the play by now. Max Muncy hits a deep fly ball to center field. Looked like he was getting out for a sack. Shirley was deep enough for a sack fly. Sal Frelick jumps up, a ball hits off his glove, then hits off the wall. He relays the ball back in. There was a whole bunch of confusion on the base paths. Teoscar tagged up late, gets thrown out at the plate, and then William Contreras actually ran the ball to third base to get the other force out. Double play, so it ends up being I think it's a 8-6-2 double play to get out of the inning. Unbelievable. I'm going to go back and talk about all that stuff, but that is how the game remains scoreless. Later on, into the top of the 6th inning, Freddie Freeman hits a one-out solo home run to put the Dodgers up 1-0, his first home run of the postseason. Dodgers would get a couple more base runners, but they would strand them. 1-0 Dodgers. We go all the way to the 9th inning. At this point in the game, Blake Snell is now through 8 innings. Top of the 9th, Abner Uribe is in for the Brewers. A leadoff walk to Max Muncy. A Kike Hernandez single into right. Then an Andy Pages sack bunt. I actually didn't love this in the moment, but he ended up pulling off the sack bunt. And then an intentional walk to Shohei brings out Mookie Betts with the bases loaded and 1 out. Mookie takes a walk on a 3-2 count, just like he did against Yohan Duran in the previous game against the Phillies. Then, so the Dodgers are up 2-0. Alex Call, he actually pinch hits for Teoscar, and the Dodgers are going to have him obviously play defense. So I'm assuming Dave Roberts' thinking here is that he wants someone who's going to put the ball in play and also possibly beat out a double play, and then he's going to go in and play defense for Teoscar. He ends up popping up, which was pretty much one of the only things you can't do there. Then Freddie Freeman, he flies out to center field. Dodgers go up 2-0, so they did get the insurance run. This was one of the big decisions that I'll talk about in a little bit. But Snell comes out. Sasaki comes in for the save. He gets Caleb Durbin to pop up to Max Muncy for 1 out, but then he kind of loses his command. His first walk of the postseason and his first walk since he's been a reliever. Isaac Collins takes the walk. Then on a 3-2 count to Jake Bowers, he hits a ground rule double to center field. So it is second and third with 1 out. The tying run is on second base. The winning run is at the plate. Jackson Churio flies out, hit it pretty well to right center field. So the first run for the Brewers comes in, and then the tying run goes from second to third. Dave Roberts has Sasaki pitch to Christian Yelich. He walks. So then he goes to Blake Trinan to come in to try to get 1 out. He ends up walking William Contreras. So the bases are loaded, 2 outs. Tying run is on third. The winning run is on second base. Bryce Terang comes up, and as you have all seen, Blake Trinan gets him to strike out on a fastball upstairs to end the game and to complete Game 1. Dodgers win by a score of 2-1. They take a 1-0 lead in the National League Championship Series. Really good game. Really a lot of good, really good pitching, and some great defensive plays and all that. So it goes Blake Snell for 8 innings, Roki Sasaki for 2/3 of an inning, and then obviously Trinan for 1/3 of an inning. He got that 1 out. The Brewers threw a ton of pitchers out there. Ashby for 1 inning, Quinn Prester for 4 innings, then Chad Patrick. He gave up the home run to Freddie Freeman. He only goes 1/3 of an inning. Jared Koenig, 1 2/3. Trevor McGill, 1 inning, and Abner Uribe, 1 inning. So I told you guys before the game, or I should say in my last pod, the preview pod, all the Brewers high leverage guys. The Dodgers pretty much saw every single guy, with the exception of, I guess, Mizorowski, who's kind of a reliever / starter. But they saw Aaron Ashby and Koenig, their 2 best lefties, and then they also saw Uribe and McGill. And then you can also throw in 2 kind of long relievers / starters and Chad Patrick and Quinn Prester. So they saw those guys, and they got the win. So that is obviously a positive that the Brewers are now in Game 2 are going to have to use all those guys again, likely, and they've already thrown. Maybe a couple of them will be on some pitch count limits, but obviously they have Freddie Peralta going today. So where we're going to start is Blake Snell. Like I said, we'll talk about him first. Then I'll go to the base running craziness. Then I'll finish up with the 9th inning finish and those decisions. So Blake Snell. Unbelievable. Once again, he's been absolutely incredible in this postseason. The best starter for the Dodgers so far, and he's been the best starting pitcher in all of the playoffs so far. He goes 8 innings pitched, 1 hit, 0 earned runs. He didn't allow any runs, 0 walks, 10 strikeouts. Unbelievable. He actually faced the minimum, so he had just literally no stressful innings. I think the most pitches he threw in an inning was 18. Other than that, every inning was 11, 12, 13 pitches. Like, he was so efficient. 103 pitches. His 4-seam fastball was averaging 96.1, which is up, obviously, from what his regular season fastball was. And that's been the case all postseason so far. Once again, I believe it was his first start against the Reds, but he once again threw more changeups than he did fastballs. And I forgot if it was the Phillies or the Reds, which that was the case. But whichever start that was, it was only 1 more changeup than he threw than fastballs. In this game, it was a lot more changeups. 37% changeups. He threw 38 changeups to 28 4-seam fastballs, 27% 4-seam. So he threw 10 more changeups than he did fastballs, and he also mixed in a bunch of curveballs and sliders. Again, like we've seen from him in this postseason, the changeup velocity, it was anywhere from 79 miles an hour to 87 miles an hour. So we kind of just, will play around with the velo on that pitch. A ton of swings and misses. He got 14 whiffs on that changeup. And like I said, 4 on the fastball, 3 on the curveball, 1 on the slider. 22 swings and misses. Absolutely filthy. Just unbelievably efficient. No stressful innings. And he just absolutely carved up the Brewers. It was like he carved up the Phillies in that Game 2 NLDS start, where I think he went 6 innings pitched. In this start against the Brewers, he literally was even better, pounding the strike zone at a better rate, getting a little bit more swings and misses. I think, or he might have actually had 1 less swing and miss, but almost no hard hit balls. I think there was only 3 hard hit balls all night off of Blake Snell. A lot of ground balls. Like I said, the only hit he allowed was a bloop single from Caleb Durbin, and then he immediately picked off Caleb Durbin. So that's why Blake Snell faced the minimum. In this game, 24 batters faced, right? If you got through 8 innings, that's the number. So if it wasn't for that bloop single, Blake Snell might have been facing some history. And only 103 innings. Obviously, the big debate was, would he go back out for the 9th? Again, I'm going to get into that a little bit at the end. But Blake Snell, wow. I mean, single-handedly pretty much won this game. If it wasn't for him, obviously the Dodgers wouldn't have won because they didn't have a ton of offense. I've said to this before about watching Blake Snell. I've kind of learned a lot about him, watching him the last 2-3 months since he's come off the IL. And I think something that was really cool is that he actually said this more than once in a couple of interviews last night. One interview that was on the field, and then another in the press conference, kind of under the stadium, like you see at the, sitting down at the mic. He actually said how he kind of addressed a lot of the narratives about him throughout his career, and I'm actually a part of this. I've always told you guys how Blake Snell throughout his career has kind of been this interesting, weird pitcher. He's a guy that has 2 Cy Youngs in his career already, and he's still in the prime of his career. But most people probably don't think of him as a Hall of Famer or someone who's on that track. And he's a weird pitcher, like I said, because he used to walk a lot of hitters. He kind of would nibble a lot and not really attack the strike zone. And so a lot of times Blake Snell was a typical Blake Snell start was 5 2/3. 4 walks, 9 strikeouts, no earned runs, a lot of base runners, pitches out of traffic well, gets a lot of strikeouts but isn't very efficient. And he actually was saying in his press conferences, he was saying no, I am an efficient pitcher. I can go deep into games. I think that a lot of people have kind of been wrong about me. So I just thought that was interesting that he was addressing some of that. And he's been completely right. I mean, if you've looked at his numbers since he came back in August, and obviously in this postseason, it's just been so dominant. I think he has, in 21 innings pitched, he has 28 strikeouts. He's only allowed, I think, 6 hits, 5 walks. He has been crazy good. The only game that he had a couple walks was that Reds game. I think he had 4 walks in that game, but he only had 1 against the Phillies and then no against the Brewers. I said this before. He is a really fun pitcher to watch because he really is a smart pitcher. There are some times where guys are just have the electric stuff, which he does have. But man, he is a smart pitcher. I mean, you could see him on the mound. He pulls out the card of his back pocket, which is the scouting report. He does that in the middle of at-bats. What he said, kind of defending himself, is true. He is more of an efficient pitcher now, and he kind of is low-key pitching the best he's pitched in his life because of the limiting the walks and attacking the strike zone and going deeper into games. What is true about him is the way that he, a better way to phrase it is it's not that he necessarily nibbles, but he doesn't give in. If you watch Blake Snell, he never gives in. Behind in the count, he'll throw changeups. Ahead in the count, he'll get you to chase. He didn't throw a ton of fastballs in this game. And a perfect example is he's done this twice in this postseason so far, where the first batter of the game that he faces, the first pitch, he throws an off-speed pitch. Last night, if you go watch his first pitch that he threw against Jackson Chourio, the leadoff hitter for the Brewers, first pitch changeup. And then I think it was against the Reds, where it was the first pitch of the game against TJ Friedl, first pitch curveball. I'm pretty sure, or like I said, it might have come against the Phillies, but that's a perfect example of Blake Snell saying, I don't care that it's the first pitch, and generally the first pitch is a fastball to get myself ready. He doesn't care. First pitch, why would I do that? Well, why would I risk someone jumping me for a first pitch fastball and get on base or clip me for a homer? Right away from jump, first pitch changeup, first pitch curveball. In the regular season, the Brewers had the 3rd lowest whiff percentage in all of baseball. So we were the 3rd best team at not striking out and not swinging and missing. And they had the number 1 chase percentage in the game, meaning they chased out of the strike zone least or lower than anybody in the game. So they're the best at not chasing. So they had a whiff percentage of 22.5, like I said, 3rd lowest, and then they had a whiff percentage of 22.5, 3rd lowest, and a chase percentage of 25.2. in this game, obviously it's just one game, but this is just kind of to show how good he was. 45% whiff rate, and then a chase percentage 33%. And another thing is that his changeup so far in this postseason, a 65.3% whiff rate. That is nasty. 65.3% whiff rate on his changeup in the playoffs. And to put that in perspective, in the regular season, the highest whiff percentage on an individual pitch was Fernando Cruz's splitter, which was 56.6%. So right now his changeup whiff percentage is 65.3%. 21 innings pitched, 6 hits, 2 earned runs, 5 walks, 28 strikeouts, 64 whiffs in 21 innings pitched. He's been amazing. He's, at this point in his career, he's one of the best postseason pitchers of all time. He actually has the highest K per 9 and the highest K percentage in the postseason since 1950 of all starting pitchers. Just any way you slice it, he's been the best pitcher in the postseason this year, and he's been one of the best of all time. And he's just so fun to watch because he mixes up the pitch mix, but he's not afraid to just lean on the changeup all night and the off-speed pitches. He is like a surgeon out there, really. Like, when he's attacking the strike zone like this, he already is pretty much unhittable, but he becomes literally this unhittable, where if it wasn't for one bloop single, we might have saw him throw a no-hitter, which he did earlier in his career with the Giants. The 1 year that he was with the Giants, he threw a no-hitter against the Reds. So, again, just incredible stuff. And, in a season where Yamamoto was the Dodgers' ace, he right now is the postseason ace. And he's been electric. The stuff is, like I said, increased where he's averaging 96. So you actually see him throughout the game regularly hit 96, 97, sometimes even 98. He's increased the usage on his slider, which he mainly throws to lefties, but he does throw that to righties a little bit. He's been doing that a little bit more in the postseason. And again, I go back to in spring training, he said in an interview that the Dodgers thought they found something on his changeup and thought that it was a pitch that he could use a little bit more, because throughout Blake Snell's career, it's always been obviously the good fastball, but the curveball and the slider have been his 2 really good off-speed pitches. And this is the best his changeup has ever looked. And obviously being a left-handed pitcher, when you face mostly right-handed hitters, you're going to use that pitch a lot. And he literally uses it to start off at bats. He uses it to get back in a count, which he was very rare that he was behind in the count in this start. But, if he's in a 2-1 count, he'll just throw a nice changeup on the outside edge and get a swing and a miss, and then obviously use it to get the strikeouts. And it's not even like a crazy elite changeup when you watch it in terms of like the movement on it, but he just uses it so well and kind of like never throws any bad ones. So he is just a surgeon out there right now. And literally he has the feeling right when he's out there that he's unhittable. I was confident he was going to pitch well in this game, and it was obvious in the first 3 innings that he was, he brought the good stuff. And there was a chance he was going to go all 9. We'll talk about that in a sec, because what I wanted to talk about was this crazy base running play that took place in was it the 4th inning, like I said? Yes, top of the 4th inning. Teoscar Hernandez gets on a walk. Will Smith single. Tommy Edman single. Bases are loaded. 4th inning. 1 out. Dodgers are looking to bring in their first run of the game. Max Muncy's at the plate. He hits a deep fly ball to center field. From the naked eye, it looked like Sal Frelick jumped up, caught the ball, it hit out of his glove, and then he caught it again. So there was a ton of miscommunication. Will Smith on second was running back to second, and then he was telling Tommy Edman to go back to first. Teoscar tagged up late. So I'm going to talk about this play and just kind of give some info and who was in the wrong in this play. And because there was a ton of people on Twitter who clearly didn't know the rule or were kind of confused. Some people were saying that Dodgers got screwed by the umpires. Some people were saying it was Dino Ebo, the third base's fault. Some people were chalking it up to it was a weird play, which there is some of that. But let me give you, who was at fault, what really happened on that play and all that kind of stuff. So, first of all, when it comes to who's at fault, it is a difficult play. Because if you're the base runner and you see Sal Frelick jump up, and what it looked like from your viewpoint probably was that the ball hit out of his glove and then popped out, but then he caught it again. So if you're the runners on first and second, Will Smith and Tommy Edman, you're trying to get back to the bag to tag. Didn't really know what was going on. So, it is a difficult play. So there is a part of that. Part of that play that gets chalked up to baseball weirdness. Just that was the luck of the draw. That was the, madness that took place on that play. And it wasn't an easy play. It wasn't an easy scenario. It was very confusing, obviously, for them to see what's going on in real time. But who is mostly at fault in that play, in my mind, and not mostly, but pretty much all at fault? Teoscar Hernandez. Okay, so there are some people who might not know the rule, but when it comes to tagging up, a tag up play, less than 2 outs, there's a ball hit in the air. Usually it's to the outfield. The outfielder catches the ball. As soon as the ball hits their glove, touches their glove, you stand on the bag, you wait for them to catch it, or obviously, like I said, just hit their glove. You immediately take off and try to advance to the next base. So some people might think that because there are times when an outfielder might go to catch the ball, hits out of his glove, and then the outfielder re-catches it or something like that. Some people might think that the rule is if the ball hits out of their glove and then they tag and then they re-catch it, you have to go back and re-tag. None of that is the case, because obviously that is obviously the rule, because if there's an outfielder who is camped under the ball and he sees you're going to tag, he could try to catch the ball and then have it pop up to have you leave early or something like that. That is not the case, because of this rule. You can't do something like that. Once the ball hits the outfielder's glove, you are allowed to tag. So if the guy goes to catch the ball and just drops it, you don't have to go back and tag. You just, as soon as it hits their glove. So that is where Teoscar was in the wrong. Because when the ball's in the air, you go back to the bag, you wait for him to get the ball. As soon as you see it hit his glove, you take off running. Because if he catches the ball and makes a leaping catch at the wall, you tagged up and you score anyways, and it's a 1-0 game. If the ball hits out of his glove and bangs out of his glove and hits the ground, you run home anyways, and it didn't matter. So in this play, it hit off of his glove, and then obviously you could see in the replay, it hit off the wall and then went back into Sal Frelick's glove. So obviously because of that, it's not a catch, because the ball came out of his glove and hit the wall. So basically what it is if Max Muncy just hit a single up the middle. So basically the ball becomes a live, just normal ball in play. So for whatever reason, Teoscar, when he saw the fumble, when he saw the ball come out of Frelick's glove, he tagged up, then went back to the bag to re-tag up. That is where he screwed up and messed up, because you don't have to do that. Then, obviously, he gets thrown out. Incredible play by the Brewers to have the wherewithal to, get the ball in quickly and throw the ball home, and then the catcher Contreras to catch the ball like a first baseman. Because again, if that ball, if they take a tad second longer to get the ball in, Teoscar is safe. So Teoscar was in the wrong, because as soon as that ball hits Frelick's glove, you run home. You don't wait for him to catch it, definitely catch it or whatever. That is the rule. So for some people thought that the umpires were making the wrong call, or they were signaling, the wrong call. Now, on the flip side, Will Smith on second and then Tommy Edman on first, they do need to go back and tag, because they are, when the ball is hit, they are in between the bases. They didn't go back to tag. So they are waiting for the ball to get over Frelick's head, or if the ball is caught, then they're going to go back to the base. So Will Smith thought, obviously in real time, that the ball was caught, didn't hit off the wall. So that's why he was going back to the bag, and that's why the force out was at third base, because like I said, once that ball hits the wall, it's like a base hit to center field. So it's like, imagine Will Smith singled up, or Max Muncy singled up the middle, and then Frelick threw the ball to third base before Will Smith got there. That's essentially what the play ends up being. It's really confusing, but who was at fault? It was Teoscar. You got to know the rule there. There's no go back and tag, nothing like that. The ball hits the glove, you go and you run. Dino Ebo was telling him to go. That's it. He was the one who was at fault there, and the Brewers just made an incredible play. So obviously in the moment, I was very heated. The Brewers are a team, I told you, who are a very smart team, play good defense. In that moment, you're thinking, oh my God, Max Muncy almost just hit a grand slam with less than 2 outs. and we're actually not going to make it out of this inning with any runs. That was an insane moment. That was crazy. I couldn't believe it. But the one thing that kept me hopeful was that Blake Snell was pitching really good. So all I said to myself was, Blake Snell, man, keep dominating, because I can't have a loss. I can't have us lose because of that play. I can't look back at that and say, oh my God, we lost the game, and Teoscar just made an incredibly bad decision. And again, Teoscar Hernandez always finds himself in these moments where bad defense, bad base running. You got to know the rules there. You just tag up. There is no going back to re-tag or anything like that. If Will Smith or Tommy Edman would have got doubled up, that would have been okay for me, because from their point of view, they couldn't see that the ball hit off the wall. But Teoscar, it doesn't matter. You just run home either way. So obviously, it didn't end up coming back to biting them, because they won, and they ended up, Freddie Freeman hit the home run, and then they ended up adding on another run. But it was just a wild play that you probably will never see again. The last part that we'll pretty much talk about is the final inning decisions from Dave Roberts. Blake Snell gets through 8 innings. I'll tell you what I was thinking in the moment. Now, obviously, if I was the manager, I would have to make a firm decision. But in my mind, I said to myself, okay, I'm okay with either decision. Blake Snell has had no, stressful innings, only 103 pitches. He still looks really good. If they send him back out there, I'll be okay with that. I think that I would live with that. And on the flip side, if they took the ball out of his hands and gave it to Roki, I was okay with that too. I'll be honest, in my mind, I was saying I probably would go to Roki, because he did throw 100 pitches, Blake Snell, and Roki has been very dominant up until this point, throwing strikes. You did have the 2-run lead, so I thought that was my thought. I was okay with either decision. I didn't think there was a right or a wrong. Because some people were incredibly mad. How could you not let Blake Snell go back out in the 9th? And then there are some people who, would have gone to, or, think that, it's just, in my mind, I was okay with either decision. I was okay with it either way, because either way, you're sending Blake Snell back out there, who's been dominating, or you're going to Roki Saki, who has been dominant and pounding strike zone. So, of course, they go to Roki. You could tell right away he did not have his best command. Now, he got the first guy out on a weak pop-up, but then he walked the left fielder Collins, didn't throw any really competitive fastballs in that at-bat, and then Jake Bowers comes up to pinch hit. Again, Sasaki falls down in the count, but then got back in the count. He threw a 3-0 strike. Then he threw a filthy forkball splitter that wasn't even close to the strike zone, but Bowers was so geared up that he swung and missed. Then Sasaki is forced to throw a fastball right down the middle, and kind of the first time all year that Sasaki, or I guess I should say since he's been a reliever, especially in the postseason, that he's given up a hard-hit missile. Bowers was just ready for a fastball right down the middle, clobbered it to center field. Thankfully for the Dodgers, it bounced up and over the wall, so it was a ground rule double, so it's now second and third. He then gets Jackson Cheerio to fly out to right center. It was hit pretty well, but not completely on the barrel, so Paz was able to catch it. So at this point, a runner on third base, 2 outs. Sasaki is able now to get out of the inning. Obviously, if he gets the out, the Dodgers win the game. In my mind, at this point, I was saying to myself, I would leave Sasaki in, because I think that his stuff is really good, and I thought that he kind of figured out the command a little bit. Obviously, overall, he didn't have his best command at all, but I thought he kind of figured it out a little bit in those last few pitches, and I would have left him in, but they wanted to go to Trinan, and I'll be honest, in that moment, I didn't like that decision, because Sasaki ended up walking Christian Yelich, so now the winning run is on first base with the tying run on third. You're bringing in Blake Trinan, so in my mind, obviously Blake Trinan is not going to hold the runner, because he doesn't hold runners on as he holds the runners on pretty horribly. He allows stolen bases easily. He doesn't even attempt to hold runners on. Now, if they left Sasaki in and Yelich, attempts to steal second, there's a good chance he's safe either way, because at that point you're focused on getting the hitter out, which I understand. But if you let the guy easily steal, the winning run goes into scoring position. Now a bloop single literally ends the game. So I didn't love the decision to go to Trinan. I would have stuck with Sasaki because I feel like he has earned it, the opportunity to get through that inning. I thought he still was showing enough to get through the inning. And then I just thought, after the stolen base thing, I just thought Trinan just hasn't been good. And I was just envisioning a bloop single and Christian Yelich scoring. They opt to go to Trinan. Of course, just such a nerve-wracking moment. He ended up walking Wilson Contreras, so the bases are loaded. And 2 outs. He obviously got Bryce Trang to chase the fastball, and the game is over. So, ended up being the right decision. Credit to Blake Trinan. He kind of earns a little bit of trust back, because he was able to get that strikeout, and he made the pitches when he needed to. But that was my process. That was what I was thinking throughout that ninth. I was good either way if it was Sasaki or Snell. Sasaki just didn't have it. It was the first time that we've seen him in this reliever role not be dominant. It was the first time that he didn't have good command. At some point he wasn't going to, because we all know Sasaki in the regular season and as a starter had really bad command issues. And then he came into this reliever role and was just pounding the strike zone. I mean, it's been rare that he's been behind in the count, let alone walking hitters. So this was the first time his command got away from him. The fastball was a tick down, which I saw some people were a little bit concerned about that. But he, instead of averaging 99, he was averaging like 98. He still was up to 99 a few times, so I wasn't too concerned about that. I just think at some point he was bound to come back to the mean a little bit. He was just looking so incredible. So I think that we probably won't see him in game 2 for a save opportunity, maybe. But I think he'll be down, and they'll probably try to fix a few things with him, and they'll be ready to go for him to get a save opportunity in Game 3. So I still believe in Sasaki. I still think he'll be fine. But it was worth noting that was the first time he lost his command, in these like 7-8 innings that we've seen him as a reliever. But credit to Blake Trinan, and credit to Dave Roberts for making that move. I didn't love it in the moment, but it worked out, and the Dodgers got the win. So those are all my thoughts on those, those 3 things: Blake Snell, the base running decision, and then the 9th inning decision. So now the last thing I'll just quickly kind of talk about is the offense. The offense was, continuously like kind of up and down in this game. Now the Dodgers did have 7 hits, but they left a lot of runners on base in this game. The Dodgers were 1 for 10 with runners in scoring position. That crazy Max Muncy play, if Sal Frelick just jumps up and catches the ball, and the ball doesn't pop out of his glove, then the Dodgers, at least get 1 run out of that. So they would have scored 3 runs at least, and then they have the rest of that inning possibly to get a 2-out hit. Or if, Sal Frelick misses the ball, they get a couple more runs. If the ball was hit, a foot farther, it probably gets over the wall and it's a grand slam. So I think they actually swung the bat really good in this game. Shohei showed a lot better plate discipline. I thought that Freddie Freeman obviously looked amazing with the home run, and then he had another double. Will Smith has some good at-bats. Tommy Edman continued the good at-bats. And then, of course, Kike Hernandez, like he always does, he had 2 hits. In this game, too, going into tonight, I'll kind of flip over to that now, and that's where I'll finish up. Yamamoto versus Peralta. I think all the pressure is on the offense to show up because, one, throughout the regular season, they rarely showed up for Yamamoto. And I think that today they're facing Freddie Peralta, and it's been a few games now since we've seen the Dodgers put up a good amount of runs, and you can't let Freddie Peralta get into a groove into this game because the Dodgers were, lucky enough to see a lot of the Brewers bullpen, and if Freddie Peralta goes out there and cruises through 7 innings, you're going to rest. The Brewers bullpen's going to be nice and rested for Game 3. So they have a really good chance to kind of screw up their bullpen going into the rest of the series if they can put up some good at-bats in Game 2. The offense needs to be better. I need to see better at-bats from Pages. He's continued to look really bad. But I think I have a feeling the Game 2 they're going to break out a little bit because I think they were a little unlucky in this game. Freddie Freeman had a deep fly out to left field. There was a couple of line outs. Shohei actually hit the ball really hard on a ground out to first base. Mookie Betts grounded into a double play in the 5th inning, but he hit that ball hard also. So I think that they had a lot of really good at-bats in this game. There was a lot of 3-2 walks, like Max Muncy had the one in the 9th inning. Obviously, Mookie Betts led to a run. And there were a couple other guys who had some, really good at-bats like Tommy Edman. So I think that the offense is going to break out in this game, but it has to. The offense, they need to cash in with runners in scoring position. And, just like I said after game 1 of the NLDS, you put yourself in a great spot after winning game 1. And I kind of said after game 1 in Philly, I said if they're able to take game 2, you can almost end this series prematurely because that was a 5-game series. That wouldn't be the case here because this is a 7-game series. So if the Brewers went to LA and won 2 out of 3, we'd be right back in a series. But obviously, you win this game. You go to LA up 2-1. You're gonna be feeling really good about yourself with Glasnow and Shohei ready to pitch in LA. So all the pressure to me is on the Dodgers offense in this game. I think Yamamoto will bounce back and be pretty solid. Now, the Brewers hit him well in the regular season. I think one of his worst starts of the year was against the Brewers in Milwaukee. They chased him in the first inning. So he needs to obviously bounce back after his last performance against the Phillies. But all the offense on my mind is on the Dodgers. All the pressure is on the Dodgers offense. And in the career of Freddie Peralta's career against the Dodgers, he's pitched well. In 41 career innings, he has a 3.29 ERA. Now, as of late, the Dodgers have seen him decently well. Back in July, they put 4 earned runs against him. But then earlier in that month, he threw six shutout innings. But then 2024, they got 4 earned runs off him, 3 earned runs. 2023. So earlier in his career, he pitched really good against the Dodgers. Not so much the last couple of years. So all the pressure is on the Dodgers offense. I need Shohei to do something in this game. I need Freddie Freeman to continue the good at bats and that slug, and Max Muncy as well. So. But I like where they're at offensively. I think they've continued to have really good at bats. So game 2 is going to be another good one because you're going to have Yamamoto against Freddie Peralta. I'm really excited for it, and it'll be the little scary part is what will the Dodgers bullpen look like? After Yamamoto, I would imagine there's no Glasnow in this series coming out of the pen because it's a longer series, and if there was any spot for him to pitch, it would have been last night. Obviously now at this point, he's either going to pitch game 3 or game 4, which would be Thursday or Friday. So you're not really going to have him come out of the bullpen. So after Yamamoto, it's going to be Sheehan, it's going to be Vesia, Anthony Banda, all those guys. I mean, Trinan didn't throw that much, so maybe we'll see him to close it out. So the bullpen is going to be a little sketchier. Ben Caspares, I never talked about. He was added to the roster, so maybe we see him. So a little scary that we're probably definitely not going to see Sasaki. And obviously Trinan coming in, it makes it a little bit harder to see him. We need Yamamoto to pitch good. I need to, it's a lot to ask, but I kind of need Yamamoto to pitch into the 7th inning. Because there's not going to be too many trustworthy guys after him to get this win. So that's why I think all the pressure is on the offense. The offense has to come through today. Obviously, they don't need to score 10 runs off of Freddie Peralta, but make it difficult. Freddie Peralta has a tendency to walk hitters, so continue the good at-bats, put pressure on him, and hopefully someone can come through and kind of put up a crooked inning against him, 3-4 runs, and then we can get into that Brewers bullpen, really screw up their bullpen going into the rest of the series, and then take pressure off some of the guys coming into the game like Sheehan, like Vesia, so they don't have to come into a 1-0 game in the 6th, 7th inning, something like that. So that's all my thoughts on Game 1, all my thoughts on Game 2 happening tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed. What a nerve-wracking game that was. I mean, especially that 9th inning. I was literally shaking for that final out. But a major Game 1. Blake Snell, just historic performance. He's been amazing in the postseason. And here we are, Game 1. Dodgers take it. So 3 wins away from getting back to the World Series. I might not have time to recap it, this game, until Thursday. But we'll see what happens. So Game 2 tonight, Yamamoto versus Peralta. Go Dodgers. I got my Yamamoto jersey on. You guys can't see it, but it says Yamamoto on the back. Thank you guys so much for listening. As always, you can get this podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on all social media at Talking Blue Pod. You can follow myself at Talking Blue Nick. And on Reddit at competitive-week8715. Dodgers take Game 1. Game 2 tonight. Go Dodgers. Good luck to everyone who is watching.